Hello everyone, this is Hakaym and welcome back to some more World of Warships, and today we're taking a look at the Tier 10 French heavy cruiser, the Henri IV, or obviously the nickname HIV. As a kind of series, as I'm looking at pretty much all the Tier 10s once over, especially a few ships that I haven't seen in a while, but obviously Henri IV is a more recent ship. I believe is the latest ship that I've got to around tier 10. We are playing on Islands of Ice. We have a Montana, Alabama, Tirpitz, Henri IV, Baltimore, Neptune, Rune, Charles Martel, Gearing, Shimakaze, Habadosh, and a Z-23. On the enemy team, there is a Kerfurs, Tirpitz, Moskva, Baltimore, Buki, Edinburgh, Kutuzov, two Shimakaze, a Grosavoy, Benson, and a Kagero. Now, I actually had a couple matches with the HIV. One was probably a good example of its maneuverability. This, on the other hand, is a good example of its durability, its potential of damage, as well as, well, the additional maneuverability. The Henri IV is in my opinion, I enjoy the Henri IV. She's a really decent ship. Talking about her main guns are actually technically the largest caliber guns you can get in the game thus far, with 240 millimeters on each turret, or each gun for that matter. Range on the gun is not too bad, 19.1, so that's really how she should be played, as a long-range support cruiser. And this is really your bread and butter, is going to be firing HE at battleships. Now, her AP against other cruisers and even against battleships is very viable. Granted, does not obviously have the super heavy AP that the American cruisers do have, but you do have decent damage. Now, the enemy team, as you can see, is starting to push towards A and B. We have yet to see anyone towards C, so it looks like they are pushing quite heavily towards the AB cap. Now, this is one good thing about the Henri IV, is that she's able to reposition quite readily, really down to the fact that she has the engine boost. The engine boost, and I do run the prolonged consumable, so I'm able to zip around for a much more extended period of time, allows you to zip around. She's very quick, obviously, in a straight line, around 41 knots, a little bit higher, I believe, than that, and that just really does allow her to fall back to a different position and offer support. And the long distance range of her guns and the very straight to target shells, obviously not as great as the Moskva, but still very decent, allows you to be kind of a constant harassment, able to reposition, assist a flank that is not as beneficial or as strong, and just be a constant bother. I've seen this happen in Clans War multiple times, where just the Henri IV is just a nuisance. Yes, may not provide that big of a swing in the battle, because usually at the beginning of the battle you're not going to be that powerful. You're not going to be swinging anything in any one direction. So at the beginning, you're just going to be pestering. You're going to try to get those fires, try to get some damage on battleships. And for us, the battleships are generally hiding in the back, and that's kind of how it was in the previous battle I had with my Henri IV. Now, unfortunately, we have just lost our friendly Gearing due to flooding, and I probably should have pointed this out, I am joined with a couple of my clanmates. We're also shown on the Fun Day Sunday bonus video. Now, here you can see the counter was climbing quite dramatically. We had 5 ships, and yes, what I'm doing right here can lead to deletion. The Henri IV has very terrible armor, though she does have troll armor. So cruiser AP and even sometimes battleship AP can be ricocheted off of the troll armor, or better yet, spaced armor, for those that are wanting to be a little bit more specific. So it is extremely dangerous, but with her speed, she is fairly nimble, especially running the speed boost module. It is actually very viable to get turned around, and most most players are going to be shooting behind you guys. You see the Kurfürst all behind us. And that's something that you can definitely use your advantage. Obviously, a more, well, I don't want to sound very conniving, but a more experienced captain is going to realize it is a French cruiser, and they should see the thick black smoke that is coming out of our smokestack, and it should realize that we are running the speed boost flag. Now we are spotted, and there was a destroyer and a Baguette coming out on the eastern side, so we do have to be careful. We do know there are a couple of Shimikazes around. I believe we finally have taken out one of the destroyers, and we are being locked once again. Look at that. Got a few ricochets from the Torpedoes. Very, very nice. We have just lost our Neptune, so yes, we are not in a particularly great situation, but the points are definitely in their favor, but the ship is fairly even at the time and place. Now, once again, the AP is actually really decent, and with this speed, you can surprise destroyers. I can outrun a Shimikaze, and the Shimikaze probably was not expecting to have a Henry IV just coming barreling down toward it. Now, we do have an Ibuki opening up with AP, but I am hoping to try to at least ricochet, but I do have to be more careful of the Shimikaze than I have to be with the Ibuki. Fortunately, we are dodging some of those salvos, but we should be able to take out the Shimikaze, no problem. Do have to provide a narrow of a nose to prevent him from torpedoes, and there we go. Earned our first kill, and that is one dead Shimikaze. Now, one probably major downside of the Henry IV is her guns do take a little bit longer to reload than most of the other cruisers. I am running the reload module on the Henry IV just so that I do have a faster, quicker reload. But the reload time is a little bit slower, but it is still manageable to work with. Because these guns do hit pretty hard. The HE and the AP are both very beneficial. Now, the Ibuki, as you can see, is no longer spotted. That is obviously due to the fact that he has a much better concealment. Henry IV has a pretty big concealment on the ship. It generally runs around 12.7. Not as bad as the Moskva. The Moskva is obviously the worst offender of this. But usually if you can't spot a enemy cruiser, almost the best thing you could do, and this is not always a very viable option, but one thing you definitely could do is just rush them down, because once again, you are the fastest cruiser in the game, even without the engine boost. And obviously it's an Ibuki running away from us. There are going to be torpedoes, so I do have to be careful. And now I do run the hydroacoustics on my Henry IV. And there we go. We have our engine boost up and running again, and we can get up to speed. Now, we do have both the Ibuki and the Moskva over on our side. The enemy team is in a ship and point advantage. They are holding B quite nicely. We are trying our best to actually push them out. I believe the Kurfürst is officially dead, but we still have our Montana, which is really going to be very viable because the Montana is actually a really good ship. Now, the Henry IV, I've talked about her speed, and with the, once again, with the engine consumable, she can turn pretty decently, but she does feel a little bit sluggish when you don't have that speed boost. So having that speed boost is very, very beneficial. AA, and this is something I'm just unable to show you in this battle. A is decent. I would say it's decent. Obviously not going to be the greatest. And look at that. Look at that. Double fires. And that's another thing about the Henry IV is she has really good fire chance. Definitely one of the better cruiser with the high fire chance. Good damaging HE and AP shells. Really comes down to the fact of the higher caliber guns, but we do get a few broken shells on the Moskva just due to the fact of its armor, but we can just try to burn it down. You can see he's trying to citadel us, but once again, at this angle, the Henry IV space armor just does not allow any real major penetration. A lot of ricochets are occurring, and now normally I would not recommend this, but we'll have some fun. Obviously, the Moskva has spotted our torpedoes. I'm actually going to pull our camera away just so you can see this action a little bit more. Now, obviously, the Moskva has officially decided to switch over to HG, and it looks like he is trying to go for a ram, but obviously the Henry IV is just way too quick. I have switched over to AP, and look at that, Citadel and one Des Moskva. So Henry IV is very, very maneuverable when that is the case, because it does obviously allow you to outturn and outspeed most of the other cruisers. And this Ibuki is really trying to Citadel us, but we have yet to been Citadeled by this Ibuki. So we have officially earned our second kill. Now all that's left is the Ibuki on the side. There is a Kutuzov, I think, that is trying to hunt down one of our destroyers, but at the moment I think we might actually be able to pull this back. Keeping in consideration the enemy team has held A and B for some time now, and I obviously don't want to be showing a lot of broadside to this Ibuki. Was hoping to Citadel him, but he is obviously playing very, very smartly, so this is actually really good choice on the matter for him. But honestly, the Henry IV has really good high explosive damage, and look at that. Darked out a couple of his torpedo tubes and set him on fire. But here's the thing, and especially this is really beneficial due to the fact that they reduced the fire time on cruisers, is when you're in a cruiser fight, as I am, especially against a Japanese cruiser, don't instantly burn your damage control, because you're just gonna get set on fire again. And now it's not as bad as it used to be, where if you burn for a full minute, and that's quite devastating for a cruiser, especially against another cruiser. So I just used my repair party, and instinct tells me that Sabuki's gonna try to drop torpedoes again, because I was spotted for a little bit by some planes, and I am not going to rush around this corner, because I am going to bet he has probably dropped torpedoes. And oh, speak of the devil, there they are. Yes, you do have to be careful. Rudder shift time's not bad, and I should have Citadeled him there, but I aimed a little bit too low. Now he is doing a decent job as far as dealing damage towards us, but I think if we just focus down him with HE, we should be able to take him out before he even gets a good opportunity, because he is not allowing the majority of his firepower to actually come to bear. So we should focus him down, and we do have a repair coming up, so we should be able to repair up some of our damage. And I am gonna go ahead and bring in my third turret just to add additional shells, but this battle is almost done, and overall not a bad thing. And I probably should have mentioned, yeah, Henry IV has torpedoes, but they are the exact same torpedoes you've seen since tier 5 and 4. Now unfortunately we're not gonna get the kill, because, well, someone decides to torpedo him, and that's not very nice of you. But overall, not a bad match. Kind of exciting, especially against that Moskva. Definitely a good example of what the ship can do. So with that, the Shimagazi took our kill, but we earned a victory. Silver brought home around 444,000. Earned Dreadnought. Probably was not, obviously, my highest damaging game with the HIV. I do generally get a lot of high damage games. One thing you will probably see quite often is either Arsonist or Witherer, especially if there's a lot of battleships and high tier battleships. You will get Witherer and Arsonist quite a bit. We did destroy 2 ships and caused 11 fires, so not a bad game. Top of the team with a base XP of 2,107. Most of our damage came from both the Ibuki and the Moskva. Very, very close there. Didn't get a huge opportunity against the Kerfers or the Turpets. So that was unfortunate. Would have been nice to show you guys how well the HIV can really burn down a battleship. But with that, let's actually jump into the port and we'll take a look at the captain and modules and consumables, and take a look at kind of her specifics. So I will see you guys in just a second. All right, everyone, welcome back to the port. And once again, I do love the Henry IV. She has become one of my more favorite cruisers, and I don't really know why. Because she does have quite a few benefits, but she does have some major weaknesses. Survivability, she's not bad, but her armor is weak, and this has been very prone for most of the French cruiser line. But her real major benefit, and this is kind of situational at times, is her spaced armor. Let's see if I can actually get a good demonstration of this here. There we go. There we go. That's a good demonstration of her spaced armor. She does have multiple layers of armor. And what this does is whenever a AP shell goes towards your ship, it forms a check. And if it is able, as far as what the RNG says, is if it's able to penetrate through the first layer of armor, it has to run through another check. And this has to occur 3 times total. So you have a good possibility of actually getting ricochets off of a lot of AP, especially cruiser AP. Cruisers will have a very difficult time of actually penetrating. But obviously, if it is a flat broadside, you are going to get Citadel. This is more of a case is if you are at a around 35 to 40 degree angle, that you're able to actually get away with this. Now, I don't recommend go instantly into battle doing this, but if you find yourself in a situation as you saw myself against the Mosfa, good way to fight that battle is provide that slight angle, and you should be able to get away with very minimal amount of damage. Now obviously, had he switched over to HE, he probably would have done a little bit more damage. Once again, the armor on the Henry IV is not the greatest. 220 millimeters. I believe the Mosfa has a much thicker armor at 300 millimeters. Obviously, this will depend on its location. But for the most part, the Mosfa is going to have a little bit thicker armor. I believe the Hindenburg has 150, and the Des Moines has 203. So, for the most part, the armor can be finicky, but you still have that spaced armor. So very beneficial. The torpedo protection is 19%, but it is one of the little bit higher compared to some other cruisers. I believe she's one of these better ones, so that is something you can definitely take advantage. Of course, don't always go running into a torpedo whenever you see it. Main guns, once again, main guns, they're big. Max HE damage 3,400. Max AP damage is 6,200. The Zhao, let's actually find my Zhao real quick. Max HE is 3,400. Max AP is 5,400. So there is a slight obvious HE damage. Now, obviously, the Henry IV has 240 versus 203 from the Zhao, but at least you have the HE damage that the Zhao has, so that is extremely beneficial. 26% fire chance on the Henry IV and 23% on the Zhao. Now, as you can see, the Henry IV has a really good fire chance, 26% versus 23% on the Zhao. But the major benefit of the Zhao is the fact that she does have a 4th turret, so that does allow a much higher roll on fire damage or fire chance, but you have the best fire chance in the game, so not bad for a cruiser from the French line. The AP and HE velocity, shell velocity is 845, so once again, not the quickest out of the barrel, but for the most part, I find it reliable to actually land your shells without really providing much of a lead. When firing on a ship, you do have to get used to it like any other cruiser line, but really should not be that major of an issue. Torpedoes, once again, like I said, torpedoes aren't really that relevant. AA is, I would say it's decent. It's not obviously a huge AA cruiser. It is capable of protecting itself. 204, you have 4.5 kilometer range, and then 94, 5.2. Not the greatest in the world, but you are at least semi-capable of protecting yourself. But really what it comes down to is your maneuverability. This is probably why I like the Henry IV over, say, the Zhao. Now, the Zhao obviously has some benefits, but the Henry IV is capable of repositioning, and it is capable of constantly harassing. It has very similar range to the Zhao. So with that, it is able to be a pain. Obviously, there are some drawbacks with the Henry IV. Maneuverability is only very, very beneficial when you have the engine boost consumable. Now, she is the quickest cruiser in the game at the moment, 36.8 knots. Her turning circle radius is a little bit big, 840 meters. Her rudder shift time is 9.5 seconds, is technically the second worst as far as the rudder shift time. Hindenburg is actually a little bit worse, but with that engine boost, you're able to be a little bit more maneuverable, and could possibly dodge incoming torpedo planes or dive bombers. So it's very, very, very viable for you to use that. Now, concealment is once again not the greatest thing in the world. 12.7. The Moskva has a concealment of 13.8. So once again, the Henry IV is kind of a big ship. She's not sneaky. She's not going to be the one pushing in like a Des Moines or even possibly a Zhao or obviously the Minotaur. She's more of the support cruiser, staying in the back with the battleships, providing that harassment with HE and fires. So that is pretty much the lineup as far as what you should be expected to do. As far as consumables, very similar. You do have the benefit of running defensive fire, and I would say it is very beneficial, and I would recommend running it more over the hydroacoustics. I think the only reason I have the hydroacoustics equipped to this is due to the fact of Clan Wars. I think that's the only reason, because once again, Clan Wars, there are no CVs. Moving on to the upgrades, as per usual, main armaments mod 1, very beneficial. Aiming system mod 1 as well. And then I have gone for the reload over the range, because once again, your range is pretty decent. Now, obviously, you can get 20 or 21 kilometer range guns, but really having that much higher DPM is more beneficial than having an extended range. Now, the fourth upgrade, I went for the engine boost modification 1 just to extend the action time on the engine boost. Obviously, this does have some drawbacks. For the French cruiser line, had serious issues with losing its rudder quite often whenever a high explosive or AP shell hit the rear of your ship or even grazed it. Your rudder would become out of whack and was not viable. I've had so many issues, and normally I would recommend that, but with the French cruisers, having the extended engine boost is very, very beneficial. Moving on to the fifth, steering gears mod 2, just to make yourself more maneuverable, and Concealment Expert is nice as well. You could actually probably go for steering gears mod 3, but per usual, I really do enjoy having a much lower concealment on almost all my ships, just due to the fact in case you need to break away, you have a higher chance of actually getting away than if you did not have concealment. My captain is almost a full 19 point captain. As per usual, priority target is very beneficial. Expert marksman, I would highly recommend, just due to the fact that guns turn so terribly slow. And then having adrenaline rush, so more damage you take, your faster your guns reload. Superintendent for those additional consumable Demolition Expert, higher fire chance, and Concealment Expert. And probably for my fourth one, I will probably getting Advanced Firing Training. Once again, she does have the potential of running defensive fire on the ship. So having the additional range to your AA guns will help protect any possible incoming planes. Another very viable thing you could go for, and honestly, I don't really overly recommend it, is possibly go for Survivability Expert, or even getting Jack of all trades just to reduce that rudder shift time, and then obviously getting either Expert Loader, or if you really want to, and I don't really see this all too often, I've had a few people comment saying that they actually have this, Incoming Fire Alert. Not overly what I would recommend, but you could also even get Last Stand just in case you're having issues with losing your rudder all the time. So overall, not a bad ship. Not a bad ship. I know some people don't like this ship, but I really do enjoy this ship. Very much so. But anyways, this is going to be it for this episode of World of Warships. Thank you guys so much for joining in. If you like what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button. You guys have a great and fantastic day. Zaijian.